Hello and welcome to the Ultimate Speaker Community's blip, 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 blip. We're live, back up. Hello and welcome to Ultimate Speaker Community presents the Speaker Spotlight for Wednesday. I am so excited today because we have a very special guest. We always have special guests on here. I'm your host, Christoff J. Weihman, America's favorite speaker empowerment coach, 5-star customer experience expert, and the creator and producer of the Ultimate Speaker Competition. And we're coming to you live from, you see it right behind me, fabulous Las Vegas. I have an amazing guest today. You all are going to love her. Not as much as I do. Michelle Renee Weihman is an award-winning nurse, a #1 best-selling author, a podcast host, a speaker, an animal advocate, and so much more. She has touched lives in different capacities as a nurse and a thought leader. She has a podcast that covers issues ranging from healthcare to general life matters. And when Michelle is not leading, treating, and inspiring the world, she hangs out with her husband, that's me, Christoff J. Weihman, and our 5, yes, count it, 5 puppies. I'm going to welcome, please help me welcome to the stream, to the broadcast, Michelle, my wife. Woohoo! Hey, baby.
Hi.
You're the only guest I will ever say that to.
I hope so.
So great to have you here. You have so many amazing things that are happening that you are creating. Before we get into all of that, I would like to just ask you to take a few moments, just a few moments, and give a wee bit of a background of who is Michelle Weihman.
Oh my goodness, that's such a loaded question. Michelle Weihman, I am a nurse. I've been a nurse for a very long time, a wife, a mother, a nurse, a puppy mom. And then going from there, I am growing a business in a podcast. I don't even know. I'm a healer. It's what I've been. It's what I've always been. And that's the crutch of where I am. And then growing from there, looking to create a safe space for people to be able to come and talk and listen and enjoy some time with us or with me.
Let's go back to your early days. Where did you grow up?
Okay.
And tell us a little bit about that, where you grew up and went to school and the early days of Michelle.
Oh my gosh. So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I was in St. Louis my whole life until I moved to Las Vegas 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Went to Lutheran grade school and high school. And then at 16 years old, decided that I was smarter than everybody else and I was going to start my life a little bit earlier than the normal high schooler. So I got pregnant and quit high school. And from there, it was interesting. You know, I always knew that I was supposed to be doing something, but I didn't know what that was. So I quit high school. The first baby that I was pregnant with was miscarriage. Then when I was 18, I got pregnant again, and I still didn't even have my high school diploma. I couldn't drive. I didn't have a driver's license. But I was determined. I'm going to get a driver's license before this baby's born. I'm not going to be trapped in and not be able to take my baby to the hospital or to the doctor if I need to. So I had to get my driver's license. And then from there, at 21, I found myself, I was pregnant again and still didn't have my high school diploma. And I'm going to get my GED. Well, I didn't know who I was yet, and I didn't know what I was going to be still. But I got my GED, and I scored such a high score on my GED that I earned a full ride to a junior college in our local area. So now what am I going to do with that? And I decided through some life happenings, such as my son, my youngest son, Gregory, he had to have open heart surgery. And I said, I know what I want to do. I want to be a nurse. And I always, like, in my head, I was always a nurse, but I didn't know that that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. It's just what I always did. I'm the little girl who took out her friends to the nurse's office when they got hurt in the playground. I have my dolly here, but I have my dolly that I used to give shots to. I never played house. I didn't play dress up. I played nurse. That's what I did. That's what I've been.
Wow.
That's what I've always done. So I did. I started college, and I became a nurse. I in between there, I had a third baby, and then I went to nursing school full time, and um, was married for a very long time to my first husband. It was not the best marriage. It was, I would never give it up, because that's how I got my kids. That's how I got created, is through what I went through. But after 28 years, we were separated and divorced. And then a year later, I went to a bar in Kirkwood, Missouri, where I met this amazing guy, and that would be my host here, Christoff J. Weihman. And we met, and I don't know how much of our story you want me to tell, but we met, and we fell into a pretty serious relationship pretty quick. And then you figured out you were going to Las Vegas, and I said, well, shoot, I'm a nurse. I can work anywhere.
Yeah.
So let's go to Las Vegas.
Wow.
And here we are.
Amazing. Did you have any family members? Where did the nursing, I know you said when you were little, you took care of your dolly and you envisioned and imagined and what's the word? Visualized yourself being a nurse almost, even if not even know, probably we didn't know when we were kids what visualization was, but that's what kids do all the time.
Right.
Did you have family members that were in the medical field or that were nurses?
No. No, I actually, in my family, my mom and my dad's side, both, I was the first to go to college. So
Wow.
it was just something I always wanted to do. I always jokingly, and not jokingly, but I found out later in life, I was going through my mom's yearbooks, and she was in the Future Nurses of America Club. And that's when she was pregnant with me. So I guess that's where it came about.
She was in the Future Nurses of America in delivering the Future Nurse of America. And you're an award-winning nurse. Some people might wonder, what does that mean? We've heard of, speakers or other people being an award winner. What is an award-winning nurse?
Both of the awards main awards that I've received all kinds of different things, plaques and etc. But both of the awards that I've received as a nurse have come as part of my leadership. The first one was just getting patients out of the emergency room. And this was a Service Excellence Award. And it was because the longer a patient spends in the emergency room, the longer a critical care patient spends in the emergency room, the less their chance of survival is. And I was the supervisor of ICU, and I decided I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to get these patients up as quick as I can. And I went down myself. I didn't wait for my nurses to go down. I went down with my nurse, and we brought the patient up to make sure that they were safe. And that was my first actual award, the Service Excellence Award, and that was at Summerlin Hospital. I was very honored to receive that.
When you said go down, what does that mean? I'm not sure.
I'm sorry. So go from the ICU, we went to the ER, which was downstairs.
Okay, got it.
So, because the ICU was on the third floor, and we actually had to take the elevator down the stairs or downstairs.
And you were part of that program of increasing the speed in which the team
Yes.
were able to move the patients from ER to the next level, to the ICU.
Yeah, I actually was part of the team creating the system. The hospital had a mastermind type thing, and where we came up with different ideas and different ways to get the patients out of the ER and into their hospital room sooner so that they would be safer. The ER is a great place. They have really good nurses, but they run at a 4-to-1 ratio on good days. That's their normal ratio. And if you think about what I'm taking care of ICU patients. So I needed those ICU patients to get out of the ER, because an ICU patient should be 2 patients to 1 nurse, and as opposed to the ER, which is 4 patients to 1 nurse. So I wanted to get those patients in the correct place in the hospital as soon as possible to make sure that they were safe.
And what was the name of the program?
Gone in 60 minutes.
Gone in 60 minutes. Yeah.
So from the time the physician ordered the patient to come to go to be admitted to ICU to the time we got them to our room was 60 minutes.
That's very impressive. That doesn't happen all the time. And unless there's a concerted, focused program, it probably doesn't happen in many hospitals, right?
Correct. It's something you really have to put effort into. It's not an easy task. It's having communication with the supervisor from the ER where they call me and say, hey, I have an ICU coming. And then me creating the bed, getting the nurse ready to, I'd have to have a room cleaned, or make sure that there was a room ready for that ICU patient. Make sure that the nurse was available, make sure that the nurse knew that she had a patient coming to her in a matter of minutes, and that we needed to go down and get that patient. Again, go downstairs to the emergency room to pick up the patient.
That's, and congratulations. And then you have another award called the Daisy. Tell us about that.
The Daisy Award is a nationwide, or I think it's actually international award. And that is given to nurses who have, in one way, shape, or form, made a difference in the lives of someone. Mine was given as, I've always wanted a Daisy Award, by the way. I looked back in some of my notes, and you and I did a conference many years ago, and on my PowerPoint, I actually had the Daisy Award listed, because my PowerPoint was about customer service and nursing. And on my PowerPoint was a picture of the Daisy Award. I've always wanted a Daisy Award, and I got it last year. There was, there was a nurse who called me. She was a traveling nurse. This is while we were working with travelers. And she called me and she said, I'm not going to be in tomorrow, but there was something that didn't feel right to me. And I said, are you okay? And she said, I will be. So I said, well, are you safe? And she said, I think I am now. So I asked her to come into the hospital and talk to me and tell me what was going on. And she told me there was some domestic violence going on, and on her trip to Las Vegas. And I called you and said, hey, I had this going on. We had a free room through hotels.com. And I said, can we put her in a room? She had a dog. Of course, I wasn't going to let the dog stay in the car. So I sent her to a place. We sent her to a place that had they gave her a free room. And that place had a breakfast bar for the morning, so she would have more food in the morning. And I knew she didn't have any money or anything, because her phone had gotten smashed, and all her money was on a Cash App on her phone. I gave her my lunch. I wasn't gonna not let her eat. So I gave her the lunch that I had made for myself that day. And that got around, that got around that I had done those things, gone above and beyond. And so that was when I got awarded the Daisy Award. And after 30 years of nursing, I finally earned one. I was so excited.
We just had not we, but the Oscars just happened. And there are people in that industry too that, that's their big goal. That's their and they're plugging away for 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Yeah,
And so I know that that's very similar. So you have two books out.
I
You
do.
are you are you have you are a best-selling author. You are in a collaboration book two times, two different chapters. Tell us about the books and share about the chapter if you would like to.
Absolutely. The first one, Successful Woman's Mindset. And this one it was my first attempt at writing and it wasn't an attempt. I was successful. I did write a chapter, and it's and know it and believe it, because as I said to you already, I always knew I was meant for more. Every time I got into a place, like I got married and I had kids and I thought I was happy, but I knew I was meant for more. And I went to nursing school and I became a nurse, but then I just what that wasn't enough, and I became a charge nurse, and I moved to Las Vegas, and I was an ICU nurse, and I'm like, yay, I can just take care of my own patients. But then I ended up moving on, where I ended up with becoming charge nurse of the ICU at Summerlin Hospital. But then I sit back and I thought, this still isn't what I'm looking for, and I knew I was meant for more. And I became a supervisor of the hospital now. I'm now, it's called a house supervisor. That's what they call it in our little system. And the house supervisor on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, I run the hospital. I whatever it is that needs to be done, whether it's dealing with security or housekeeping or placing patients or creating or place staffing different units. That's my job, as well as dealing with patient concerns and or compliments.
Yeah, me coming from hospitality, I've always told you I don't love that in the hospital they use the term supervisor, because in a restaurant when we say somebody's a supervisor, it's really just a waiter that has more experience and they're there when the manager's not around. They don't
Right.
have any authority. They're just, like you said, fielding complaints, but they can't do anything. But yes, your job as a house supervisor is so critical to the functioning and the system flowing of the hospital. What are
Yes.
some of the challenges that you face in that role?
I think the biggest challenge that I face, there's two things. One, the first thing is staffing. Right now, staffing in hospitals is horrible, and we do the best that we can, uh, but it's difficult. It's difficult. I Some days I feel like I'm just trying to balance it where everybody's equally short staffed, and that's hard. It's hard if I see this unit is actually staffed where they're supposed to be, and I take nurses from this unit and pull them over to this unit so that everybody is equally unhappy.
Okay.
It, I do my best to keep it as make it as fair as I can, but that is a difficult part of my role. That is one of my more difficult parts. The other thing that I come across is, maybe it's just the hospital I'm at, because the hospital I'm at is kind of it's in a rougher part of Las Vegas. We're not too far off the strip. We get a lot of people who have overindulged in their adult beverages or other things, and so there's so much violence.
Hmm.
uh, it's there's so much violence in hospitals right now. Nurses are getting, threatened and hit and kicked and spit on, and it's horrible. It's horrible,
Wow.
and I I don't tolerate it. There's a sign in our hospital, and you and I have talked about this. There's a sign that says we don't tolerate violence, and the patients apparently don't read that,
Wow. Yeah.
because they still, they're still becoming uh, verbally aggressive and or physically aggressive. And if they become physically aggressive in the hospital, I do call the police, and I do have the police come and talk to them. And sometimes if they're medically stable enough, they move on out of the hospital with the police.
And sadly, I know, because I'm your husband, I know that that's not an uncommon occurrence.
No, it is not at all uncommon. It is sadly more than once a month that I have to call and have someone talked to by a police officer. And we do have our security officers, and they do the best that they can, but they're in a tough situation because they really aren't trained to protect. They're trained minimally, and they do the best that they can, but they're in a difficult situation as well. And then they're outnumbered. If there are there's only 2 or 3 or 4 of them a night, and there's days when I've got 3 or 4 different things going on different floors.
Wow. You've been in leadership in the hospital industry and different hospitals for quite a long time. What do you do? What have you done to create a positive environment for your team? What do you do for them or with them, or how do you empower them, or how do you bring your leadership skills to them to make a better experience or environment for your team?
For the first thing and the most important thing to me is that my team knows that I have an open door. I really, really try not to physically close my door, because I'll hear if my door is closed, like if I'm taking a short break, 15-minute break or a 5-minute break. Sometimes I need to just step back. I'll hear people outside my door and trying to figure out if they should knock. So I try to keep my door open. That's one of the most important things to me, is to know that they can come to me, that there's an open door. And I also I go around the hospital, and I go from unit to unit, and I say hello to every nurse that I can see, and I ask them how they are and if they're having a good day. And I don't just stop in and talk to the charge nurse. I walk around the unit and see if I can support them in any way that I can. I've been a nurse for 30 years. 30 years, that's crazy. And I have some talents and some skills, and I can start IVs. One day, one of the nurses, she was just really struggling, and I went in and I helped her start an IV. And she's a new nurse. She's one of the baby nurses. And she said, "Wow, could you teach a class on how to do that?" Yeah.
Wasn't there a class when she was going through nursing school?
And I guess that's a whole nother topic, because she is a new nurse, and she became a nurse in the last few years. And during nursing school, they weren't allowed in the hospital. They didn't get to touch human beings. So while there was a class,
it's not the same as real life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's go back to your books, because we started talking about the first one. You have 2 books, and then you have a podcast, and you're also writing another book. So tell us about this. Tell us about the second book.
So this is the second book, and this one is a longer.
This is also
longer title.
Sorry, this is also one that is helmed by Galit Ventura Rosen.
Yes, she is amazing. She's not only do I consider her my very good friend, but also my mentor, my business coach, etc. So this book I titled "You've Got This and I've Got You," and this is where I actually talk about my passion for helping women and helping women who are in a situation where that they may have made, that they probably didn't plan to be in, but let them know that they've got it, that they can get through this. And if they need me, I'm here. I've got their back. And that's the same thing I do with my nurses. I believe that these nurses can take care of these patients, but if they need me, I got their back.
And that leads into your project that you launched a handful of weeks ago, the podcast. Tell us about what that is, what it entails, where to find you, all of that.
My podcast is called Dare to Care with Michelle. Dare to Care with Michelle is a project where I'm. It's also going to be a book. It's also we're in the process of making a collaborative book with healthcare professionals, healthcare heroes, superheroes who dare to make a difference. It's sharing stories of resilience, inspiration, and hope. But it's about people being daring to make a difference. And so that's where it started. And it started because I've always wanted to write a book about all the things I've experienced in nursing. And the title, my original title was "We Can't Make This Shit Up." You and Dr. Ken Smiley Rashan talked me out of that title, thinking that that there would be people not wanted on their shelves just because it had, a bad word in it. But then Dr. Smiley, Ken Rashan came up with another title, which was Dare to Care. And I thought, wow, that is such a fantastic title. And that Dare to Care is more than the title of a book. It's the start of a movement. It's starting, let's dare to care. And why? Because caring is cool. Caring, it doesn't just help the person that you're helping. When you care about someone, you're changing your brain. You're creating endorphins, and you're releasing endorphins that make you feel good and you feel more powerful, and you get like this little euphoria. It's addictive. Caring is addictive. It feels so good when people take the time to care and get that dopamine release just pouring into their body.
If people only realized how much they would receive from giving to others and taking care of others. And it is true with the things that have transpired in the last few years. We've been kind of conditioned as a society to stop because of social distancing. So people are not as used to or inclined to be close to people.
Yeah.
And we're so used to being
And
isolated and hugging and yeah.
It's been a tough few years, and this movement that I'm trying to create is just about taking the time to care about other human beings or animals, other souls. We both work with puppy rescues, and I believe that the puppies are as much as something that we want to care about, or cats or whatever it is, but just care about something, and be brave enough to care. That's what it's about. What does dare mean to people, and Christoff, what does dare mean to you?
Dare means to push through the boundaries, to go against maybe what you're used to step outside and be fearless.
Yeah. And so dare to care, be fearless and caring. Don't be afraid to get out there and do it. And
where do people find the podcast?
The podcast is found anywhere you can find podcast.
Wow.
I'm on Spotify, Apple, Audible, Amazon, iHeartRadio. And all you do is type in Dare to Care with Michelle.
Dare to Care with Michelle, and it's on your screen, my friends. Also, you can find Michelle at her website, MichelleReneeWeihman.com. And of course, she is on social media as well. There is so much more that we can talk about. This is just a very kind of a short spotlight. I have a couple of other things to end with, but any last principles or thoughts that you would like to share? Obviously, 30 years of nursing and leadership, hard to cover even a fraction of it in 30 minutes, but maybe one or two points that you've learned over the years that maybe you have developed as a core principle that you hold and value and that you share in your guiding and coaching of others.
Yeah, and the first thing is, if I'm talking to people who are not in the medical field, know yourself, know your history, know your medications. Don't be afraid to go to the hospital and go to the hospital with your loved ones and be their advocate. Sometimes people need an advocate, and you're like, I don't want to upset them. There's like a line between being aggressive and being an advocate, and it's okay to be an advocate for your loved one, for yourself, for your child, whoever it is. But that's the biggest thing is not being afraid to be an advocate and help out, make sure that we get the information. Don't lie to your nurses. Don't tell me that you drink 1 beer a day when you drink a 6-pack a day. Sorry, but that's crazy. But don't lie to us. That's a big one. And people do. Uh, they forget to tell the full truth. Those are my big tips to people, non-medical people, to the nurses out there. Don't be afraid to touch your patient. Don't be afraid to get in there and care. Caring is hard. You know, I go to work, and you know this. I go to work and I drop my whole, like, I throw all my energy into it. And then when I get off work, and when I was working day shift, even, I get off work and I would be like, done. I'm so tired. And then I get home and you're like, hey, do you want to go out to dinner? No, I can't. And I can't make any more decisions because I gave everything I had. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with giving everything, caring, being fearless, breaking through the boundaries of caring, because caring is cool.
I just lost my thought.
I'm sorry.
No. I had one other thought, and it vanished. It went away. Caring is cool. Caring is cool. Oh, I know what I was going to say. We've often talked about customer experience and patient experience.
Yes.
And there is a difference between caring and just doing the steps required.
100%.
It's easy in that, well, I wouldn't say it's easy, but one can do what's on the checklist, what is required, what are the expected steps or responsibilities, and still not be a person who is showing care.
Caring is more than a checklist, and you're exactly right. I can do a checklist. I can say, even, like, for example, when I got my Daisy Award, when that nurse called in and said, hi, I'm not going to make it, write her name down, say, okay, thank you, hang up.
And you would have been fine because that's what was required, and you took note of it and you did the required action.
Yes. And I'm done. But instead of doing that, because I heard something in her voice that made me say, are you okay? Are you safe? That was that one more step. It's always that one more step. It's patting someone on the shoulder. In my role as the supervisor, it's patting someone on the shoulder. It's talking to them. It's, holding a nurse's hand who had a patient who fell. We had a patient recently who fell, and the nurse, when I went down to her department, that nurse just ran into my arms, like, and tears. And she knew that I had her, and she knew that I was there to comfort her. And that, not number one, that shows how much that nurse cared. She cared enough before that man fell. She cared enough to take his food tray and heat it up in the microwave. And I know that sounds like something so simple, but if you're in the hospital and you get a tray of food and it sat there for a minute and it got cold, and hospital food already isn't that good. Sorry to all my dietary friends, but then you take that food that already isn't that good and try to eat it cold. It's gross. She took the time to go and heat that man's tray up and make sure that his food was as good as she could make it. It's just little things like that are caring. And it took her 60 seconds, right?
Right.
But that made a difference in that person's life. And she was crying, and she said, I fed him a meal, and I heated it up, and she just felt so bad about everything that happened. And I told her, I said, just think of how lucky that person was, that somebody cared about him. Somebody showed him nurse love in the way that nurses can. And that's heating up a meal, making sure you have a warm blanket. Those little touches are so important.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. I'm so glad that I got to have you on our speaker spotlight today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
I knew how to contact you, but I didn't know. But
Knock on the door next door.
But that didn't mean that I knew if you would have availability in your schedule. So that worked out. Most people know that I'm a big believer in affirmations and I am statements. And when we do events like our Ultimate Speaker Competition, which is coming up soon, less than 3 weeks in Vegas, April 3 to 5, we invite people to write down and to say out loud their I am statements, which could be something very short or, stringing a handful of words together that are adjectives that describe one. And we say, I am, and then what that affirmation is, and we end it by saying, my gift to the world is. So before we begin, I would like to just give you the opportunity to say any other last words.
Yeah, I do have a last word or two, and that is pretty simple. We do have Ultimate Speaker Competition coming up the beginning of April, and I love seeing nurses on it. Absolutely love it. We've had my friend Heather Harris. We've had Marilyn Morales. We've had a few nurses.
Yes.
And they're my favorites. So come on, nurses. Let's get a couple of you out here. We're in Vegas. Y'all live here with me. You know me. Let's get a couple of you on the show, and let's show them what nurses can do. I know that I don't remember what Heather did. I know Marilyn was a semifinalist, and she was amazing. And then she's also joined my podcast. So let's get a couple nurses on the show. Sorry for the obvious plug, but I want some nurses.
And you have, even if you think, well, I'm not a speaker, you have stories, you have messages, and being able to express what you do and how you do it to take care of your patients and how you shine your light. It may be something that you've not considered before, but like Heather Harris, it was her first time. And now she's doing a lot of amazing things. She has a book out. Heather, you didn't know that we were going to plug you. And same with Marilyn Morales. She has a podcast. She has a book out. I've
got her book here.
Creating a movement. And she actually had her first launch as a speaker on our stage.
Yeah.
So consider it. Push through that discomfort and that uncomfortable feeling, and join us. And I promise you, it will be a very empowering and even life-changing event. So thank you for. So it's not just nurses, but yes, we do welcome nurses and friends of Michelle.
Also remember that just doing Ultimate Speaker Competition is going to teach you ways to communicate more effectively with people. It's going to teach you ways to talk to people and to affect it. And as a leader, as someone in leadership, I stand in front of my nurses every day. I need to be able to communicate with them. And so it's not just people who want to be on stage for a living. It's people who want to learn how to communicate better and to portray and use hand motions like mine.
Yes, that's really great. Thank you. Now let us end with your affirmation. I am whatever
I am a healer, and my gift to the world is love.
Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today with my guest, my wife, the amazing Michelle Renee Weihman. You can find her podcast everywhere that you find podcasts. It's called Dare to Care with Michelle. And come and see us at the Ultimate Speaker Competition in Las Vegas. You can go to ultimatespeakercompetition.com or just message me or Michelle, and we'll give you all the details. Cheers. God bless everybody. It's Christoff J. Weihman.
And remember that caring is cool. This is Michelle Renee Weihman.
Talk to you soon.